This is another YouTube video on therapy by Dr. Mark Carriage. And here's the PowerPoint. There we are. This is part of the YouTube series I've created on therapy. If you recall, if you've seen any of my other videos, I've said that I got 4 series. One is on hypnotic, which is almost completed. One is on group, which is completed. One is on therapy in general. And last one is on going to be on men that sexual aggression issues. Okay, so this is for adults only. This is for mental health people only as well. A little bit about myself. I am, like I said, Dr. Mark Carriage. I've been around for 45 years, and I started SIU at 76. I completed my bachelor's in 79 at SIU Eversville. Got my master's in 1981 at St. Louis U and PhD in counseling in 1985 at SLU. Both were at SLU, which is St. Louis University. And I completed a counseling psychology internship at Texas Tech University in 1984-85, which is probably the best experience I've had. Okay, you can call me Dr. Mark, Dr. C, whatever. I've been called a lot of things. I've been in the prison system for 40 years, and I've just recently decided enough. I know when to throw the towel in, unlike some people in the political system. But I know when things are done, and I'm done with that part. So I've been called everything under the book by everything from everybody from administration to inmates. But enough of that. That would be a all day series. Okay, so I work for Chad Welch at Metro East Counseling in Swansea, Illinois. We're in the Metro East of St. Louis. I also do some consulting at um, Transitional Center Incorporated, TCI, in Cloquia Heights, which is in the Metro East of St. Louis as well. I will say, in terms of therapy, I've had the pleasure to travel around with my father, Dr. Peter Carriage, in the early 80s, maybe mid 80s. Attended a few American Society of Clinical Hypnosis workshops, conferences, where I met the best in the world of that era, except for the great Milton H. Erickson, because he passed away in 1980, March of. So I didn't meet him, but I've certainly met a lot of people that have either worked with him, colleagues, or even his personal physician, Dr. Marion Moore, who actually showed me the hypnotic handshake technique. And yes, there is such a thing. So anyway, I appreciate that experience. Was able to really network with those folks. I could be reached. This is the important part, because don't be trying to call me on my phone because I ain't gonna answer. The important part is I can be reached at mcarich at AOL.com. Yes, AOL, dinosaur, AOL. And I still have a flip phone to boot. Matt Adams is the guy that urged me to do these things, to get on the YouTube bandwagon. And he's in our office. However, he's not present today. So everything that goes wrong, we can blame him. And everything that goes right, we can blame me. Seems how the political system works. Okay, so what is today about? It's part 6, if I count right, on the therapist style. So we're emphasizing, there ain't no we, there's me, emphasizing the therapist style. So it can make a major difference for you, the therapist. So what are some of the successful characteristics of a therapist. Well, I took work from Kotler, Jeffrey Kotler, in his book, obviously 2018, Bill Marshall in 2005 and 2011. Um, I will say in the sexual aggression arena, Bill Marshall is my clinical hero that I look up to. In the therapy section, there's people like, or they're not around anymore, um, John Carlson, Dr. John Carlson, who passed away when in the midst of us working on a book together, and Dr. Harold Mozak. Okay, so back to the PowerPoint. We'll never get done, and I got to be done in 20 minutes. Okay, so here's what's kind of said: courage and willingness to be vulnerable at different times. I like admitting to mistakes and imperfection because everybody makes mistakes, and it's good to own them up. Modeling. You model off different therapists. You're also becoming a model with the client. Emotional attendance. That means being emotionally present. Um, so, caring and warmth, concern, being concerned about your client's support, respect, valuing clients, and the leader's openness for that. Being non-defensive, and I violated all this stuff. I'm sure one time or another. But being non-defensive, if clients bring something that you don't to your attention that you don't really like, and go with the flow. Look at it. Personal power, uh, which is a dynamic quality of leadership, especially in groups. Stamina. Sometimes, especially in groups, you have to have stamina to withstand the pressure, the fatigue, burnout, etc. Willingness to seek new experience, self-awareness, sense of humor. It's always good to have a sense of humor. Now, I have a very dry, sarcastic sense of humor, and a lot of times it won't be caught until the next slide over. Giving you a fair warning. Um, being innovative, if you will, inventfulness or inventiveness. So you want to balance your style with procedure if you're working for agency. But style makes a difference, not just a procedure. Flexibility, being able to adapt to stuff. Structure, when you're not over rigid, you want flexibility in that. You got to have some structure, and I will tell you everything is structured to some degree. Even the unstructured is a structure. The courage and willingness to be vulnerable at times. I already mentioned that one. So let's see. Mentioned modeling, being directive to a degree, warmth, empathy, respect, stamina. I mentioned process, being able to help clients process. I mentioned humor, personal power, and encounter. I think the only one I haven't mentioned is non-judgmental. It's always important to be creative in the deal and open to new experiences. Stay emotionally engaged and not defensive. Okay, in group leadership styles, Yalom in his research pointed out four different things. There's emotional stimulation, that's revealing feelings, dealing with emotions, challenging, confronting, expressing, etc. Now, Yalom is a solid existentialist, and he's still living. Um, and because he's wrote a book or two on that topic. So, picture yourself as an existentialist as we're going through these styles. But he says you need to ask stimulating questions with direct intervention, confrontation, encouragement, and disclosure. Well, see, we don't disclose stuff anymore. It's limited disclosure because the therapy is not about you; it's about the client. A caring position, he said, protecting members as needed, displays of affect, praise. You know, you got to support, always encourage important or well stuff people say, points they make. It's important to reinforce that. Expressions of clients' worth, genuineness, You want to be genuine to a point. If you hate your client, you might want to refer them, and you don't want to tell them, "Hey, I hate you." Modeling relationships, encouragement, and feedback. Now, meeting, which means you're more academically in tune, you're attributing, understanding, explaining, interpretation of what's going on, blah, blah, blah. Executive function means you're the manager, you're managing the group parameters, what's going on, which is all important stuff. Um, Managing time as well. Don't let somebody take all the time in the world. And developing goals, interceding, decision making, pacing, adhering to the procedures as needed. Okay, what's he say is effective? High on meeting and attribution. Caring alone isn't enough, but necessary. A moderate use of emotional stimulation and low moderate on executive functioning. Use as needed because otherwise it becomes a policing activity. Keep this in mind if you're running groups. Get back to Bill Marshall. Bill Marshall told me he did a lot of tedious research with his graduate students in the UK on a standardized prison program for years, and so they studied tapes after tapes after tapes, visited groups and stuff, and analyzed what the clients thought therapeutic made a difference. And here's what he said. Now, again, I'm repeating some of this, but this is what the research in the UK said with men with sexual aggressive issues. Okay, style and balance with procedure. In other words, flexibility and structure. So structure, but not overly rigid. Directive to a degree. You got to be directive to a degree because you are a therapist, even if you're nodding your head and not nodding off like Carl Whitaker did once in a family session, but nodding your head in agreement like Carl Rogers did. Carl Rogers was directing the activity. Now we can debate this at length. Um, Respect, process, humor, again, respecting the client no matter what they come in with. Doesn't mean you agree with the client, it means you just respect them as a human being. So humor, encounter, supportive, challenging, being non-judgmental was key. Okay, some other top characteristics. You don't want to come across as narcissistic, but you want to come across as confident. There is perhaps a slight difference, but there is a difference. Narcissistic, it's all about you. Being confident means you can handle the situation.